What is up, dudes, dudettes, and all my beautiful people of the interwebs? Welcome. It is Saturday, so it's time to go beyond. Thank you for checking in with the United States of Smash. Now, I gotta say, guys, it is probably one of the greatest weekends for nerds and pop culture right now. One of the biggest films has finally graced movie theaters, and man, has it completely destroyed everything. Literally to the extent that everyone is completely blown away with it right now. But not only that, we got a lot of surprising news coming out. And of course, we have a wonderful guest who's come to the United States. And of course, let's go ahead and introduce who we got on the panel. But like I said, we have a great guest today. And I'm glad to have him. I met him once and I got to talk some very interesting shop with this man. The legendary lawman himself, coming down to bless us from the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Hoglaw. What's going on with you, Hogue?
Right here Eastern time for me, but talking about what has become a historic box office run for our friends the Avengers. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No, thank you for being able to take the time to come out and talk about this because I know you and Cognito were talking about this on Twitter about your early thoughts, talking about the films that you love the most from the Marvel universe.
Uh, but that my Twitter time I got to be bouncing around, but because
You're
much to
bot
take in.
you're botting just a little bit. All right, try talking now.
What did I do?
No, I was saying it's just coming and botting a little bit. That's weird. Okay, now you're good. But yeah, man, it's this really has become
All right.
one of the most historic films to really grace the box office, as you put it, because that's absolutely right. There's no other way to describe this film at all, other than the fact that it is just mind-boggling. Now, of course, we have our usual panel members here, and we're going to go ahead and introduce these guys. And first up, we got the man who's slowly growing himself, the man with no plan, Mr. Operation. What's good with you, Op?
So thinking. Look, of course, we'll get into detail about it. Again,
Man, what is going on?
yeah, movie. I've been doing just, Brett. Like it's just like I said before.
It's crazy, man.
It's like, but like, absolutely, it's just so funny over the top. And that show is wild as hell.
Oh man, trust me, I understand completely what you're saying. Let's see what's going on here. And of course, yeah, yeah. I was like, it just seems like
Okay, good.
everyone's buying just a little bit, but we're getting to the bottom of it. Don't worry, we got this. We got this. But yeah, it's been something else, man. And now, of course, last up, the man that we got here is our resident artist, the man who's always up to no good, doing his thing, Mr. Soul King. What's good with you, Soul? And it looks like he is not here, as always. The man is always doing something. Why? Why does he always have to leave when I need him? Well, either way, until he gets back, people. Hogue, since it's your first time here on the show, man, and just because of the fact that a lot of people don't know your history, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is you do, what brought you into nerd culture, and especially just some of your passions when it comes to this kind of stuff. Let's give a little bit of your
Happy
history.
to. Yeah, well, I am managing partner of the Hogue Law business law firm in. So I work on helping businesses get formed and funded and have their contracts looked at and running to help them do whatever it is that they want to do. And I was at a big law firm in Michigan for more than a decade, and I was a partner there, and I decided to go off on my own because I wanted to be my own boss, do that own entrepreneurship thing. The folks, especially in Michigan, that needed the help to get their businesses in order. As part of that, about 2008, when I started out in the law, I was doing mostly mergers and acquisitions and venture capital work. But in 2008, the market really bottomed out on most things in that. And so one of the things that I really enjoyed doing was video games and software and technology and all that good stuff. And so I wound up starting or helping to start my big law firm's practice group for software, and in particular, software as a service. So continuing contracts that work on a licensing basis rather than buying products. And from that, I essentially started branching out from software as a service into games as a service, and really kind of doing some of the stuff, combining some of the stuff that I love. And I've loved video games my entire life. My father, to them from a very early age. We had an Intellivision and an Atari 2600, Commodore 64, Atari ST, Amiga, 3DO, CDI, TurboGrafx CD. Anything that you can think of, my father was into. And so that was really one of the things that we did to bond as a family. And I've that up my entire life. I've been doing video games and video game related things as hobbies and as a passion of mine for a long, long time. My entry point, you guys here talk a lot about anime and that on a TV basis. My interactions with that are primarily through video games. Some of my favorites are from era, and I really consider Ys and the Falcom games really very anime inspired, and so
Yes.
those are my relationships with that.
Yes, those are classics right there. Especially East. Not a lot of people really know about the history of the East series.
Ys Book 1 and 2 was one of the very first TurboGrafx CD games that my family played together, and I can still kind of almost say the intro of Ancient East Vanished because it was one of the first games that really talked to you. Because it did have that CD media basis, and other games were doing it on cartridges, and you could get sports talk baseball and things like that. But this one had the rock and music that East has become known for, and a cartoon intro, and it talked to you. And that was a really big and exciting moment. And then from there, I've always loved role-playing games, and so I loved East. On the anime side of things, I loved like the Lunar, and then of course the remake Lunar Silver Star story, and Final Fantasy has that influence as well. I carried that with me my whole life, and everything you might imagine, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Avengers and Game of Thrones and everything else that's happening this weekend. So when I started Hogue Law, one of the notions that I had in terms of marketing the firm, in terms of being out there in the universe, kind of try to transition law firm marketing a little bit from what it has always been, which is kind of staid and very standoffish. And say, hey, lawyers are human beings, and I think in the modern kind of economic environment, people want to have a human being as their professional representatives, whether that's an accountant or a lawyer or otherwise. And so I went out there, and if you follow me on Twitter, you probably get 60-70% Avengers and video game and movie and book and everything else tweets, and then 40% law. That's what I try to do. That's what I try to do with my social media, and I get to have great interactions with folks like you from doing that. And obviously, I'm a sponsor of the Easy Allies because of that. I watched them when they were game trailers and pick for me to market the law firm with, and that's really how I've tried to grow and sustain the brand. We've been around now for 3 years. We're still putting food on the table, so it's been a pretty good success so far.
Hey, that's awesome, man. Especially here in your interaction with the TV and pop culture side, and knowing the fact that you had that anime background, even if it's small, but knowing that it all came from games, like especially East. East is one of those franchises that's so storied that not a lot of people recognize unless you're a hardcore East fan, because of series like Final Fantasy, and then of course the Tales series and all those kinds of games that really got a lot of the notoriety. And you kind of look back on that. So that's really amazing to hear your stuff, and especially hearing what you were doing with law and everything, and kind of your history about that, because you've kind of jumped around different types of law and a lot of different subgenres of that because of what you are practicing, and then knowing about when you were partnered with a firm before you went out and did your own thing. That's actually one of those things that's really cool, because you're right. Not a lot of people really know about law and really see lawyers as, people that think about, oh, is a sleazy, cutthroat kind of guy who's just trying to get my money and help me get whatever I can and take a big cut out of it.
Well, there are those too. Yeah, lawyers get their bum rap for good reason, in my experience, from a number of people that I've worked with. So there's good ones and there's bad ones, just like there are in any profession. But yeah, my job, and this is one thing that I wind up having to explain to clients as well as on things like podcasts, is together. I'm a deal lawyer. I get deals done, and I'm not the Law and Order guy. I'm not standing up in court. I'm not Phoenix Wright and yelling objection. So I work with contracts. I work with statutes, and I work with negotiating contractual terms for things. And sometimes that takes a little explanation. Even when I graduated from law school, my wife, was asking me a dozen things about whether I could do them or not, and most of the answers were no, because I don't go to court, and so that's what people usually think about when they think of lawyers.
Yeah, think
and
of
so it's
defense lawyers, not necessarily
defense lawyers, absolutely, or even just civil prosecutors, people that go and fight for contractual rights of some kind, but that the actual drafting and negotiation, because they are legal documents, takes. And when recommending to people all the time is, if you're going to sign a contract and it's going to have any real value, if it's a small value, don't worry about it, but if it's going to have any real value, if you're signing your name to something, you better make sure you know what you're signing. And so that's where lawyers can come in handy, and that's really what I try to put myself out there doing, and hopefully at a more economical, higher value than some of my competitors.
Hey, that's awesome to hear. That truly is something amazing to hear, with that kind of history and knowing what it is that you do. Like that's something that's really out there. Like that, I don't even know what to say, because the fact that when it comes to hearing the history of law, is like I have a little bit, because of the fact that I've had family members who are like that. So it's always cool to kind of get that insight and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to what you deal with, and knowing your pop culture history, well, I'm gonna give you a question right here. Do you see yourself more as Foggy Nelson, or do you see yourself more as Matt Murdock?
Well, I got to tell you, my fighting skills are somewhat lacking, so I'm probably a Foggy, I would have to say, at the end of the day. I could never do those Daredevil moves, but no, that's actually that's a great reference, because I was actually sitting there deciding whether I was going to leave my firm when Daredevil launched on Netflix. And there are some things that hit a little close to home, and I don't know if you remember, but those early seasons, they have a lot of them really struggling to make it and make anything work in their lives. I'm sitting here thinking about leaving a well-paying job where I was a partner, this television show, and being like, well, all right, that's terrifying. But it was fun.
I think that's the amazing thing about knowing what comics and those storylines have done, is that you have that broad history and those stories, and especially when you look at something like, when you look at the story of Daredevil, knowing that Matt Murdock in the day is a lawyer, he has his own law firm, him and Foggy, and everything that they've done, and kind of seeing that story told, and when it's something that you go through, they were working at a big law firm before they both had the idea of, hey, let's do our own thing, and walking away from that, and sitting in this little crappy 2-room office doing whatever small job they could to kind of just get something going, and most of the time weren't even taking money for it, and barely being able to get their bills going. I can understand how that would hit home for you, kind of going through all that.
The way it is in comic books and cartoons and anime, isn't it? That the good guys have to get the hard luck client, and then they have to refuse payment or take less than they should for that. I always reflect on that when I'm setting up my invoices.
Yep, and I mean, look at what we saw in the early parts of season 2 of Daredevil. They were doing all those cases pro bono for the people in their in their neighborhood and taking all sorts of crazy things as payment, like the little Puerto Rican lady who came and brought them all like fresh fruit and food and stuff like that because they took her case pro bono and stuff like that. It's crazy what you kind of got to do to establish yourself and take care of those cases and things like that for people.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You know, and then they go and they fight crime on occasion. So it makes you feel lazy if you're just running a law firm and doing YouTube videos.
Yeah, it's it'll definitely put some pep in your step, being like, man, I really should hit the gym more.
Well, there's no doubt about that.
I think we all could hit the gym a little bit more. You know, that's just me saying. But yeah, it's great to have you on. Now, kind of going into what we want to talk about. Everyone here on the panel and on the show tonight, everyone's seen Endgame. I saw it twice, and I'm gonna go again for a third time on a Wednesday to go see it. But I went and saw it last night at midnight with my roommates at 3 in the morning, or at midnight, and was there till 3:30 in the morning for this film. And my God, when I walked out of that, I was teary-eyed. I was feeling all sorts of type of ways. I was like, the nerd in me growing up, literally the better part of my adult life with these films, really culminated in everything that I experienced in that 3 hours. But being able to just kind of recognize so many things from the history of comics and everything that, from what they told within themselves and where it all came to, was truly something. But it's more seeing all these articles coming out now, literally the day after this film came out, and just seeing how much of a juggernaut this film really is, that it's really becoming. Because there was already confirmed that when it aired at the red carpet on Monday Monday in LA and Tuesday in China, that this film already had $100 million in both markets and broke those records for having the highest grossing before debut total already. And I think that it just confirmed that they were close to 200 million or just over 220 million already after one day in China. And that's not even counting the 170 million that it was confirmed from Thursday's day in the US. And still not even taking in the fact that we haven't even seen the UK market come in, because they don't get it until the 29th. So this film is already breaking every possible record in every possible way. It's the fastest movie to hit 100 million. It's already looking at being the first film to hit a $300 million domestic box office open. That it's going to outpace Avatar and be probably one of the film. It's going to be the film that dethrones Avatar, and possibly be the one film that may actually get close to hitting $3 billion. And it's already looking at possibly hitting $1 billion opening weekend globally. Just hearing that kind of stuff just goes to show that comics and superheroes and what we kind of grew up with, and you know, especially for you, Hogue, you know, you're in the much older generation than the rest of us here on the show.
Much older might be a little strong. I'm a little old.
Little older. All right, little older. We'll keep you on the young side, but you're an older generation than us. But you know, coming from what came before you, you know, us being nerds, you know, we were the uncool people. This was the subculture for us that we loved. That everyone's just like, that's nerdy stuff. No one cares for that. And you look at where we are now, it's completely transcended all those kinds of boundaries and what's accepted. It's become such a cultural phenomenon that there are fans who've been following these films for, you know, 10 years, 20 films, and that kids are growing up with it and coming to love these characters. That it don't matter what age you are, there's old people waiting at 10 o'clock at night to go see these kinds of films with kids that are, you know, 7, 8 years old growing up with these. Like, how does that make you feel, knowing that all these records being broken by what we grew up with, and just seeing how it's transcended every possible boundary?
Great about it. I got the opportunity this morning to take my 9-year-old daughter, who's a very mature 9-year-old, and really take her for the first time, daddy-daughter, to an adult movie. We'll put that in quotes because it's Endgame, it's a comic book movie, but an adult movie rather than a cartoon or a Disney movie or something along those lines. And she sat there enraptured for the full running time with one bathroom break, but it's a long movie. I couldn't be happier. And so it was really a transformative experience. They've had a great time, both of my daughters, watching some of the MCU movies, which we have to kind of pick and choose what's appropriate. Some are on the okay spectrum, some are not. And so we pick and choose between them. But you're right. I am from a slightly, very minusculely older generation, and I think if you look at my life, for me, it was really Star Wars when I was growing up, and that was what really kind of defined. Especially you called it a subculture. You know, when popular amongst my friends, it was kind of in the dark ages. It was between Return of the Jedi and the Phantom Menace. It was in that 17 years, and so we were big Star Wars fans and followed all of that through books and through comic books and through kind of alternative means. And then you saw it get really big, and it either is or isn't really big, depending on who you ask under Disney's management at this point in time. But I won't get into it. You can follow me on Twitter for my thoughts on Last Jedi. This is a joyous celebration of film, so we'll leave that for another time.
Okay.
But
I kind of want to get into that later.
But no, I think it's fantastic. I think if my generation was the Star Wars generation and 80s movies in general, this really is going to be defined by 2008 to 2019, and the whatever they wind up calling it, the Infinity Saga. I think they decided to go with.
Yeah,
but
Saga is what's going to be called that.
These 22 movies, really impressive. And the thing that really jumped out at me that I thought was really remarkable is how much better some of the older movies feel after you've gotten to see where they go. Watching them in real time, almost like a TV show on a week-to-week basis. You started to get some, at least I did, fatigue in the middle, especially kind of early phase 2, where they were repeating themselves a little bit, and you weren't quite sure exactly where they were going. And now looking back on it, from what they were able to accomplish in Infinity War and Endgame, one of the things that was really remarkable to me when I did the rewatch with my wife before Endgame came out was how much better some of those older movies felt, because you knew they were going. You knew they were actually going to build on those relationships, that everything wasn't just going to reset in the next movie. And frankly, as a guy that does think about the logistics of these kinds of things and analyzes how they're done, keeping that many scripts going at once, keeping that many actors' contracts negotiated, working from the legal side of things with the licensing and the discussions between your various right arms and left arms, it's an absolutely unbelievable business and law and logistical accomplishment that is really hard to fathom. And as part of that, it's an amazing writing accomplishment, particularly Infinity War and Endgame, where you have so many different characters, you have so many different plot lines, you have so many different things happening, getting resolved, and so many tiny moments that are picked up on really from across the Infinity Saga. A really impressive feat, and that's what I'm going to remember, even over and above the emotionality of it, the plot line of it. I'm a guy that loves to see really difficult stuff get done. And as far as I'm concerned, in terms of movies, this was the moonshot. This was impossible, and they did it anyway.
Agreed. I agree. I definitely agree.
Hey, look who's finally able to get in, because he was being such a good sport and being quiet. And so, what's good with you, So? How you doing, bud?
Hello there. I'm doing good. I'm just doing some commissions.
Yeah.
And, getting ready to talk about Avengers.
Oh, absolutely. If people who don't know, or for those who do know, Soul here is our resident artist who's done a lot of the art for our channel, and he's also a big timer. Everyone's always coming to him for work, so the man's always busy. He's never not like doing 17 different commissions at one time.
Yeah, I try to slow down, man.
How many you maxing yourself out at now? What, 4, 5?
I say currently I just finished 4 today, so
Ah, see, now he's just trying to pace himself.
yeah,
But yeah,
gotta slow down.
you got it. Ho, you mentioned that you try to break down when you look at what Marvel Studios has done with the MCU and everything, and kind of look at the logistics side and how all this has played out, um, especially with understanding the law and things like that. Knowing where the Infinity Saga has ended and what this has left, and going forward, and knowing a lot of what's going to be coming. I kind of want to get your thoughts on the potential future, especially now that we've known that with everything that is finally finished with Disney and the Fox buyout, we're getting a lot of those properties back. So we're going to see the return of a lot of those characters, especially things like Fantastic Four, of course, the X-Men, the big one, and some of those characters, but also kind of knowing where you come from, especially with like the Netflix shows kind of getting left out right now because of knowing that no compete clause between Disney and Marvel. So you kind of having a little bit more of that expertise, I kind of want to get your thoughts on some of that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and it wouldn't necessarily be a non-compete. That's generally a kind of an employer-employee concept. It would be a provision in the contract that's kind of a let it lie type concept where you can't do anything with it for a period of time. They're Disney properties, and in all likelihood, the contracts would allow them to revive them after a cooldown period.
Mm.
They might well come back. The question is whether Disney would want them back and whether they would fit into whatever they're doing with the MCU at that point in time. Obviously, Endgame raises a lot of questions for even the TV shows they announced for Disney Plus just a couple weeks ago, which is obviously a more appropriate conversation for your spoiler cast. But it's hard to say exactly what they're planning. In my own post-mortem video, which I did the day after I saw the movie, one of the things I really praised Marvel for and Disney was the notion that they marketed Endgame as an ending, but they also really kind of treated it as an ending. And people that wouldn't necessarily be interested in following on from the universe from here, it's a good jumping off point. And I think you see other franchises really try to drag things on in a way that isn't fulfilling to the story. And that is the easy way to do it. I mean, they could have made it a less exciting, less fulfilling capstone of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they didn't. Instead, they took it all the way to the end, as the trailers say. And one of the things that really jumped out at me on that is the way they treat some of the credits film as really like celebrating this kind of capstone. And I equated it to I don't know how many of you watch the Star Trek movies. But when The Undiscovered Country came out, and that was the last movie with the original cast in its entirety, some of them would appear in Generations. They did a real celebratory credit sequence to really kind of acknowledge that they had finished this grand. And I was very appreciative
kind
of
of
Marvel.
A bit of their everything.
I was very appreciative of Marvel treating it that way. That it's easy to celebrate with them when they themselves celebrated as something like that. My big fear, and again, I don't want to go just into Star Wars, but you know my history. My big fear is that Disney will treat Episode 9 that way, and it's not anywhere near as earned as what Marvel has accomplished in the last 10 years.
Ah, okay. I see what you're saying. I get that. I can totally respect that too, and understand where you're coming from on that. Now let's get some early thoughts here. So you actually had some interesting thoughts on everything. So I want to hear your thoughts after watching Endgame.
Well, I can't really say much because it leads to spoilers. But my overall impressions of the film is it's one of the closest to perfect films I ever seen, and it's like everything that they pulled off is just amazing. And me honestly, I didn't know that it was gonna be like to this scale. Like before like the movie came out, I wasn't really hyped or expecting much, especially from like kind of like the disappointment that I got from Infinity War. Even though like Infinity War was great, but it disappointed me in some aspects.
Because of
But
because of the
I'm not.
fact
We
of
just
lack
not
of
gonna
payoff.
say any.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not gonna say anything. But like, Endgame, it it was just amazing. The pacing, just the dialogue between characters, the action, the animations between like CG character. It was overall amazing.
All right.
And I had to give it a 10. After seeing it again today, it still stands. And if I would lower it, it would be a 9.5.
Respectable, very respectable. I can agree with that very much so. Now we're gonna go with the young buck of the group. Op, you also had some very interesting words to say when we were all kind of talking about how we felt after the film. What are your early impressions on the film? I kind of want to hear you go into in depth a little bit on your feelings.
So nil, most of it is a really well put together movie. I personally wouldn't say it's the best nor perfect. And just I caught too many things throughout the movie I really in the wrong way, but just didn't make no sense to me. But I kind of really didn't like. But like just as we were saying in the group chat, just like appreciate for what you are saying, just appreciate what it was trying to accomplish this movie. For them to just bundle all this like this entire Marvel saga they've been doing for like past 11 years,
Yep.
Yep.
and just have come to like this grand conclusion. Just for that just even work on it, just for that just even work because like we see these like typical action movies, just like a lot of people on screen, most are just cannon fodder. It's like no, it's like us big name characters throughout this entire series all fighting together, and it just blended well perfectly. So like for them to just for all that just to work off, just to work in this movie, just for them to pull it off, it's amazing. It's a great comic movie, but like I can't go into detail right now because I don't want to spoil anything. But like yeah, I will rate it probably around like 8.9.8. A little more. I have to think about more.
8.9.8.
Yeah.
He's like I'm not gonna give it that. He's like I'm not gonna give it that 9. I'm just gonna take away
Just
that
give it the
point
9,
zero,
man.
that
Give it
point
the
002.
No, I can't do it.
Just give it the 9,
We'll get
man.
those
You
on
at
the cast.
8.9. Just round it up, man.
Just round
Pay
it.
tonight, and I give it.
He's like I will hold it back. But still, even with that kind of understanding, that is still nothing to scoff at for anything. This film does so much right. Now, how I felt, I agree with both what Hogue brought up, what Soul brought up, and what Op brought up. I felt that the film, especially knowing the early formula that Marvel was doing before they started getting a little bit more creative and kind of fixing up a lot of things, and going more visual and understanding the stories that they were trying to tell individually. This was the closest thing to a perfect film, but mainly it was the closest thing to a perfect film for a superhero film, because you know the superhero formula. Oh, origin story or one thing, superpowers happen, big villain, things happen, and then boom, it's done. But this one actually tied up a lot of stories that have culminated over the past decades. 22 films worth of stories all came up, and in the film there was a lot of things that they went back to, and films that people completely wrote off as being, oh well, this completely sucks in the entirety of this whole universe. It helped to add a lot of big implications for certain films, as well as referencing some of the bigger films that a lot of people really loved the most out of this entire universe. I felt like it did a lot for closing off everything that they had set up. It felt like one of the best send-offs for a series. It had so many references to a lot of things that if you watched all the other films you would know. If you know anything about the comics, it gave you a lot of extra from there, but it was still open enough for people who don't follow it as hardcore to be able to get some sort of semblance of closure with everything. I was in my feelings about a lot. I caught so many things that made me happy. Everything that they were doing for the story, for characters, had me all sorts of teary-eyed, emotional, and kind of bittersweet about a lot of things. But the biggest thing is I agree with Op is that there were issues that were there. Now it's not going to be apparent for the average person, but there were definitely things that were a little bit kind of opened that should have been closed, and just little plot hole things. I'm not going to go into details about those because we're going to save that for next week. But it definitely still had its issues. But everything that they managed to do from this, each act of the film, every action scene, every storyline that was going through, everything felt like it had a purpose and followed through very well. In the third act, man, did it go off when that all finally hit the when everything finally hit its stride and really all came to a head. It was something phenomenal to see. This is really
Talk about without spoilers, isn't it?
It is really hard to mention that part without spoiling it. It really is hard to tiptoe around it. But when you get there,
The part is great. You know, the
Yeah.
part.
yeah, when you get to it, when you see the film finally hit its third act and really come into it, like most Marvel films, when the third act hits, it's typically when all the action starts. And when you see how the action starts in this film, it will leave you breathless because it is something to behold on screen. It really was something amazing to see. Just
No, I tend to agree. I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. Act 3 is, as I described it, why you paid your ticket price.
yes,
I enjoyed the movie. It's in my top third of the MCU movies, but I've seen it twice now, and I do think, as much as we love it, there are pacing and tonal issues throughout the first two acts.
yes, there absolutely are. There's definitely issues, and I think pacing has always been one of those things where Marvel either gets it right or it kind of falters throughout the film, and it's always within the first two acts that we see that those pacing and tone issues, like especially when we finally see Ant-Man appear, because everyone knows Ant-Man. If anyone's seen the trailer, Ant-Man makes it and stuff like that, and we kind of see a lot of bouncing back and forth on the pacing because of what was going on and then what characters were on the screen, so the tone kept kind of shifting back and forth, and I'm not going to go into anything from there, but I do agree that the first two acts did kind of have that back and forth play that did kind of make it kind of not polarizing, but it did kind of make certain aspects kind of more apparent, but it's still nothing to completely to kind of dog it. For those who want to give it a 10 even with those little issues, the movie still absolutely does well to account for a lot of people. That if you want to say it's in the 8s to high 8s, it absolutely deserves that. There's no knocking that for what it does. Whether you look at it from an 8 to a 10, all those are fair scores and well-deserved scores, because this movie does so much right despite the little issues it has. But again, don't ignore those little issues. They are still something to be aware of, because it does have implications for what comes next. But again, the movie does
those are
so
fun to
much.
discuss.
Oh, absolutely, those are fun to discuss, and that's why I'm saying don't let those little issues or those little plot holes or plot devices that we'll explain next week hold the film back, because of the fact that it does kind of leave some things open to interpretation, which can be irritating. But there's a lot of things that it can change what we see, what comes next, because of what it has to offer. Again, this film does so
during
much.
the spoiler cast, I am going to defend a lot of things. I'm gonna open you guys.
Oh man,
Open
he was
eyes,
doing that
guys.
last night in DM.
Hey, but again, for those who don't realize, we have our own, or we mentioned this before. We have our own group DMs, and we're kind of going back and forth on it. Up brought up his issues with it, and me and Sol were quick to kind of break that down, because of the fact that we have the more storied history when it comes to this. Now, there were parts where we're just like, okay, yeah, we understand where you're coming from on that, and we did explain how that kind of messes things up, but we still kind of say it's one of those things that until we see more, yes and no on it. It is
Soul
an
King was
issue.
literal Twitter fingers with that in DM. I'm like, okay, bro, what about this fan service? Okay, what about this fan service? Okay, well, all right, what about this fan service? Like, bro, come on, man. Like, come on.
Well, he's not lying
So
on those
funny.
scenes.
Level with me now, bro.
There was some scenes that you cannot deny were absolute fan service, and they knew what they were doing. He was right. It's a comic book film. They have to have the fan service at certain points.
And,
We'll
if
get
you
to
like a
next
good
week.
butt, you like a good butt. It is what it is.
Hey,
Um,
only thing I will say openly, America's ass. All right.
anyway, yeah, no, it's actually very funny. I'm listening to this conversation, and it's like I feel like in all likelihood there's places I want to jump in, but there's absolutely nothing of this fight we could possibly have. Endgame is such an interesting movie. To even say the grounds on which we would be fighting over some of the stuff in the movie is itself a spoiler.
Yeah,
Yes.
like no matter how much we try to hide it, it's gonna eventually. There's somebody is gonna figure out. Oh, they're talking about this. So,
Well, yeah, it's
As
like
far as
yeah,
content, this is the most dense movie out there. It's like it's almost impossible to even just
they talk
It's
about
it's
vaguely
hard.
reference anything.
It's so hard to vaguely reference anything without giving some sort of semblance. But of course, the people who actually seen the film will know what vague references were meaning, and they may be able to catch on. But you have to speak vague enough for the people who have not seen it that won't be able to get any sort of issues with what we're saying, which is why we're speaking as broadly as we can without mentioning anything in direct revelation or correlation to what was going on at that point in time.
well, all I'm gonna say is, whoever is watching, if you do not see this film by Monday, I'm sorry for you. Most likely you're gonna get spoiled.
Oh, absolutely.
follow any sports news. Did you see what LaShawn McCoy did on Twitter this weekend?
No. What did he do?
He wound up, so he's got 5 million followers or whatever, and he wound up tweeting a complaint about some of the end resolutions of the movie to Marvel to all his followers.
Oh no.
Oof.
Here's the best
that's
part.
awful.
So on Twitter you can put on filters so that you block certain names. A bunch of people had blocked like all of the Avengers, Thanos, Infinity Stones, these kinds of things. So LaShawn McCoy, he tweets out these spoilers with misspellings accidentally, and so even the filters
I'm watching it
capture
now.
them.
I'm looking at it now. Wow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, all right. So you're the tweet. It's yeah, it was something else.
Hey,
Is it from again?
so post that in the DM because I don't want you to post that in the chat because I don't want to ruin it for someone.
That is terrible.
I have to post for. I don't think I have full access to the Discord, so just
You should have access to the Discord. I made sure that you have the role
post
posted.
it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna post it.
My God.
but yeah, so I saw that the other day, and it's one of those things where it's like, wow, you can do a lot of despicable stuff in the NFL, but man, if you spoiled Avengers Endgame, everybody's going to be rooting against you.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
This is nostalgic. Cause I did the same thing with Black Panther.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And oh my god, we ripped you apart so fast. You deleted that tweet, be like, oh man, I got in trouble so quickly because you got lit up so fast.
Yeah. So he put that out there and got lit on fire, and it's one of those where it's just that confluence of events. A celebrity sports star misspelling some of the stuff that he says, and yeah, that's
I think
they are destroying him in comments.
this is the kind of mess up that will make you more hated than Tom Brady.
yeah.
One guy was like, he said, tear your ACL next year, please.
Oh god.
He is upset, man.
There's one thing that you cannot do. This is one of those films that is literally a once in a lifetime thing. You want to go in as blind as possible. Like this was so hard to avoid anything on social media. And literally, like, the day of, you started seeing from all the major news outlets, oh, this happened in Endgame, this happened in Endgame. I'm like, nope, every single one of you can go away. It's like, no, I do not want to read any of this. I was like, my phone's going off. It is going in the safe. That safe is going at the bottom of a lake and is not being touched until after the film.
Theaters were in a freaking war zone, bro. Like, as soon as you walk in there, like, I saw off the distance, hey, bro, do you hear about baby? I'm like,
Nope,
fuck,
nope,
I just
nope.
got here.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. And then, the funny thing about it, even if you go on YouTube, they're kind of indirectly spoiling it with like their titles and stuff like that, or even the screenshots and images of like the video. So you just gotta be careful. We gotta be super careful.
Oh,
And that's why I
absolutely.
said by Monday, If you don't see it, I feel sorry.
Oh yeah, I feel
So
bad
why
for
would I
anyone
have to
going
spoil it?
going into this going. That's why we always wait a week to give people enough time, but they have a hard time themselves to navigate everything to not be spoiled for this film. It is going to be one of the hardest things to do without getting caught up in the midst of this because I've already seen quite a few titles for articles and videos that's just like this scene or it's like this character used this and what, and I'm just like, nope, I know the scene but I feel bad for the people. I feel the bad for the people. I'm just like, no, bad, shame on you, for shame.
I've seen some. I just on Twitter. I've seen some light titling even from the big video game sites. Some from IGN. I think one from Polygon.
There was
Where
one from
you
comicbook.com too.
Oh, I can't, since I've already seen it, I can't pretend that I haven't. So I'm not entirely clear that that gives away the store, but that's pretty close to the line.
Yeah, but I'll send you that article with the title that they had, and I'm just like, yo, really.
I agree with you completely. And as a segue, I mean, one of the things that I would say is when you started this conversation, you talked about some of the projections for the box office of the film. I think one of the enduring questions for the next 7 to 10 days is because of the internet culture, because of how big this snowballed, and because of exactly how many people are seeing it this weekend, there is a question as to
The longevity.
insanely front loaded.
Yeah. Very big in the beginning,
and if
but
it is,
dies off quickly.
if you look at some of the box office returns, that you get a movie like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 has this huge amount of people go see it immediately, and then it kind of dies. Not because it isn't a fun movie, but because there was this burning desire to see how the first part ended. Seeing it, that was useful. So this is could be a similar type of thing. I don't think it will be, but it's worth noting that it's possible that you could have some insane number this weekend. Like I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine saying it, but 350 domestic in an opening weekend, and not have a normal multiple from there because it was this kind of not only front loaded of people that were interested, but also front loaded in people that were worried that LaShawn McCoy was going to jump out of their closet and tell them what happened.
Oh. There's some.
It's definitely possible at Endgame because look at the culture surrounding the movie right now.
Literally,
like, we've never seen this much
there's
just traffic or just
so
headway
much
for people
defense.
trying to avoid spoilers.
Yes,
the movie just coming out initially.
This is one of those films that has completely such a mega defense force of don't spoil anything. There was an article I shared in our group chat that I mentioned is that literally on Friday night or at some point during Friday that there was already several reports of people being assaulted at movie theaters because of the fact that they were shouting out spoilers to the people outside waiting to go see the film. And it was one of those things that's just like, why would you do something that's literally probably one of the biggest movie events for a generation? Like, you only have a film that's this big every so often. That's literally
people waited 11 years and you just destroyed it in like 30 seconds. So
yeah.
Now, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is. That's kind of what shows what these films have accomplished on that level. Now again, we're not defending, assaulting someone, but there are certain cases when you be stupid happens back, and at that point it's kind of your fault.
You just look the other way at that point.
Bad deed. Yep. Well, and I remember, the last time I saw something like that, I remember driving home from work and somebody had spray painted the spoilers from Harry Potter 6 on the traffic signals that you had to look at. And it was just right there. And I'd already read the books or what have you, but it was one of those where it's like, well, why? Some people just, want to see the world burn, want to cause pain, whatever it is. And it's interesting. But yeah, no, it's the worst possible thing that you can do for anybody that's remotely interested in this kind of thing, that has invested themselves in it. It's sad to see. People shouldn't behave that way, but there's a lot of stuff people shouldn't do, which I am constantly reflecting on in social media and elsewhere.
It's one of those things that will make you realize it's like, why do people do this? Why This is
Who do you
what
think
happened.
was worse with the Last Jet? Not the Last Jet. The Force Awakens or with Infinity War? I think it was with the Force Awakens. It was worse with people trying to dodge spoilers.
Oh yeah, Force Awakens probably one of the bigger ones to avoid spoilers for it. Well, don't get me wrong.
And then it turned out the sequel trilogy didn't have anything to spoil. I mean, it is what it is.
Oh, he's going in that Last Jet. I hate. Oh, that's great. But you know, it is one of those things that this culture, especially with social media, and we've seen talked about so many times, and we've talked about so many times, is that social media has created such a form of anonymity that some people do this just because, and it's the worst possible thing to do because there are people who legitimately have lived for a moment like this. Like I said, for guys like us, so especially you are the king of comics on our channel here. You know, you go out and buy comics on the weekly. You have a pickup all the time. The comic book
yes,
king
sir.
here. You know, you watch all that. You grew up collecting comics and stuff like that. Hogue probably read a lot of comics growing up and followed a lot of these as it was for him. You know, I inherited a lot of old comics and kind of read them as I could growing up, and up to the age I am now. You know, we've waited to be able to see that what we loved has become such a phenomenon to have this kind of impact, you know, and for us to kind of live through these films over the past 10 years and see what it's culminated to, for someone to ruin something so special like that, it would cause, you know, someone to be so upset that they would do something like that, you know. This is something that is deeply personal for a lot of people because of what it represents.
Yeah, I can be sympathetic and not condone it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Again, we don't condone it, but when you be stupid and stupid happens, you ask for it.
No, I just looked the other way. No,
Yeah, yeah.
eh.
Don't ask, don't tell. I
Wait,
didn't
do
see
y'all hear
nothing.
something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't hear anything. Do you hear
I'm-
something? No. Oh.
I mean, as far as I see, the only thing I'm waiting to see is this movie, right? Am I right?
Yep.
I'm doing my part. You know, I took my 9-year-old this morning, and while the credits are rolling, she wants to talk about it. I say, "Here's the deal. There's 100 people outside the lobby waiting to come in to their own theater. We have rules in the Hogue family. We don't talk until we get to the van. We save it for the van, and then we can talk all we want, so that we don't ruin it for anybody else."
Absolutely. That's the perfect rule. Parents, teach your kids that. Whenever they see a movie, don't say nothing until we're in the car. Shut up. Shut up until you're in the seat. All right? Shut up in the seat.
Teach them consideration.
Well, when they're 9, they think it's a fun game to try not to talk about it at all until you get to the car. So we try to put that stuff in early.
Yeah, there you go. See, Hogue is doing a great deed for all of. He's doing a great service for all of the people. Follow his example. All right.
I really feel sorry for the employees working at theaters because, like, we're talking to a dude that scanned our tickets when we got there.
Man.
Like, the entire day, they're struggling to dodge all the spoilers and everything. And, like, they say, like, they have a schedule when, like, they come in immediately after this credit starts rolling. So,
Yeah, I
like, that's
feel
usually, like,
bad
the
for
prime
them.
time people are talking. Yeah, it's
They,
like when people are
they
talking
should
about spoilers.
honestly
every
like
movie.
get to see it before anybody. Like, all right,
There,
you
there,
guys
there,
wanna see
there
it
are
now?
some,
Like,
there are
go
some
see it.
theaters that were doing that. Like they were bringing in people the night before they opened it, or before their earliest showing. They were letting the employees come in early to sit down and see it. I did hear that because a friend of mine is a manager at the movie theater that I went to last night, and he was saying that quite a few of the people that I actually went to, they had a late night showing Wednesday for the employees, and then they had an early showing on Thursday and Friday before their first showing for employees to be able to come in and see it, because most theaters start doing shows as early as 10, but I think this film, they've had a lot of theaters going as early as 8 o'clock, and they were letting employees come in super early to see it well before the rest of the public, so that way they wouldn't have to worry about that.
8:40 for me
Definitely
this
would do
morning.
that.
8:40.
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
See, there
Vacation,
you go.
man.
Yeah.
I could
like-
barely get up at 11 to watch it again.
I mean,
Well, you know, you throw on a hat, you roll over to the movie theater. It's okay.
I mean, I stayed up for, well over 20 hours to be able to watch that at midnight and go until 4 in the morning with it. And I still haven't slept because after I got home, I couldn't sleep because I had to go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning because I'm
Aye.
irresponsible.
maybe try hard right
Well,
now.
I'll tell you who I feel for. Like the mods on like various forums and boards
Oh,
that
man.
have to go and smash the spoilers because
Yup.
they don't have any chance at all.
Yeah, it sucks for them.
Mm-mm.
They're gonna get this. They're gonna get spoiled regardless.
Unless they're early on and saw it well ahead of time, and they're just like, all right, we gotta cut everything now.
Yeah, but some people like took it serious and like actually traveled like internationally to go see the film.
Yes,
Oh.
I did hear about some. Were a lot of cases of that. Is that people were actually traveling to the United States or to China to see it in the early markets because it doesn't open for the UK until Monday on the 29th.
You gotta appreciate
I'm gonna
that.
watch it 10 times. If it's just once, that's not gonna be worth the money.
Oh,
10 times,
there are
please.
some people who probably would only do it once. I know.
Yeah, some
Me-
people just want to go see the film and
Yep.
If
I have
you got
a-
money like that, go ahead, man.
Hey man, you're talking
Hours
to
in the
you're
theater,
talking to
Cap?
you're talking to the dude who went, what was it, 6 times, 7 times to go see Black Panther alone, and I've seen Shazam and most of the films at least 2 to 3 times. I mean, we
And
can't
Soul
really.
King carried Black Panther by himself for his whole state.
He
Yeah,
had.
call it out right now.
I gave
He carried
it the
it.
budget. Yeah.
I might have gone to Black Panther multiple times. That's my favorite standalone in the MCU.
Yes, best origin
Same here.
film. Best origin film. But
Standalone in the MCU. I adore Black Panther. I love Ryan Coogler. I think he's one of the best directors in the world.
yes,
Definitely agree.
I'll
I
say
think the only film that really like compares to that is Iron Man 1.
for
me,
for
honestly.
origin, yeah. I liked First Avenger. I really liked First Avenger because I was a big Cat fan, and again I told people that's not a superhero film set in World War II. It's a World War II film with a superhero because that's how it.
Joe Johnston that did First Avenger, he did Rocketeer, which is a fantastic old Disney movie from the early 90s. And that exact style that he used for that movie is I think probably the reason he got hired for First Avenger, but he used that same style in that movie as well. That's one of the reasons that I like it as much as I do. It's a very joyful film.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's what really sold it to me. But Winter
It's
Soldier.
hard to talk about.
Winter Soldier has never become more important than it already was. It was one of my top favorite films, right behind Civil War, and I think. What was your top 5 MCU films, Hogue, for the people, so that way they can gauge? Because this is actually what got me and you talking, because you were talking about that with Cognito on Twitter. What was your top 5?
I have a 1A and a 1B really with Infinity War and Black Panther, because I think it's a little bit unfair to compare the movies with the standalones.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have Black Panther and Infinity War really at the top level, and then I have Winter Soldier, and then I have Guardians of the Galaxy, which I view as essentially one of the best Star Wars movies that Disney has released. And yes, I know that they own the other brand.
Completely.
And then Iron Man, because I think you got to give credit to the one that started it all. And
absolutely,
there are so many ways that movie could have gone wrong, and then you don't get an MCU.
mm-hmm.
And so I think you have to give credit to Iron Man. You have to give credit to Jon Favreau and of course Robert Downey Jr.
Yes. Can we also give a lot of praise to what hurt the early films? They fixed a lot going through. Like, look at what came right after Iron Man 1, right? We got the Incredible Hulk. I did not like Ed Norton for Bruce Banner. He did not have the personality to play Bruce Banner in any capacity. He was too cocky. He was too overconfident. That's not Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner's timid and stuff like that. And
Didn't have the contract terms either.
he didn't have the contract terms, but I just felt like he did not portray that character in any good capacity for people to have been able to like him as Bruce Banner. When they brought Mark
Smirky.
Ruffalo, yeah, he was very much. When they brought Mark Ruffalo later on, Mark Ruffalo has that natural humor and that awkwardness that really fits Banner very, very well. And that was probably one of their best choices, besides looking at what kind of happened with Don Cheadle and that whole aspect with for people who wanted Rhodey to stay around, but with
And
what's his
Don
name?
Cheadle, that's an interesting one because they're very different types of actors. That one's an odd little change.
It
Um,
it really was going from Harrison to Don Cheadle.
it's interesting. In the rewatch before Endgame, I watched Incredible Hulk, which I don't think I had actually seen since probably 2009. But one of the things that's interesting there is that you're absolutely right. Ed Norton struggles with what we now recognize as kind of Hulk characteristics, but the script is the same for a Ruffalo type script, and you can actually kind of imagine Ruffalo doing the things that you're watching in that movie, and it works just fine. But Ed Norton isn't as good a fit as Mark Ruffalo, so they made a good change there.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But really, seeing Endgame really kind of shows how important a lot of these older films are, and I think my top five was I had Infinity War up there, but now Endgame has absolutely, because it's the perfect send off for everything. Then right behind that I had Civil War, Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Iron Man, because Iron Man is always got to be up there because of what he said. But a lot of what those other films set up was great. Guardians of the Galaxy really opened up the cosmic and gave a lot of the more broader characters that we got to see. Especially being there on seeing the Nova Corps. And me, I love Nova. Nova's probably one of my favorite cosmic heroes. Besides when they did Captain Marvel, and I had words about Captain Marvel, but Nova, the human rocket himself, the living missile. I was like, I love Nova, and knowing that they kind of set up potential for him to show up later on because of the Guardians was always great. Winter Soldier was a very heavily great film because we got to see the return of Bucky, but really seeing his story shine off in Civil War and how that kind of set off a lot of bigger events that came too was phenomenal. Black Panther was a cultural phenomenon that could not be overlooked. Doctor Strange also is up there for me. I think that would be right after Iron Man because Doctor Strange was a visual masterpiece. What they did with that movie with the visual effects was next level because one, Doctor Strange, always one of the coolest, the Sorcerer Supreme himself, really bring in the magic into the MCU. But seeing what they did visually with it, with all the different universes and realms and everything that they had to do, especially for all the attacks and everything that they were doing for all the fight scenes, was just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always surprised that Doctor Strange is the kind of the forgotten MCU movie because I think it is such a strong performance from Benedict Cumberbatch, and with that CGI and frankly one of my favorite finales of any of the standalone movies in terms of I adore Black Panther. It's my favorite, but I think that the final standoff is better handled in Doctor Strange than it is in
Yes,
Black Panther.
absolutely. That
Oh, yeah.
that
Mm.
finale, the way that played out with Doctor Strange kind of confronting Dormammu, and realizing that Doctor Strange was in there for quite some time, dying multiple times, but keeping Dormammu stuck in that time loop and messing with him, and was kind of amazing to see the fact that he was willing to oh crap, I'm gonna die, but maybe I can actually make this work, and kind of torture Dormammu even though he was also torturing himself at the same time was so interesting to see, especially with the fight between them and Caecilius and his band. So it's always something amazing to see. Uh, I agree too. It was an amazing performance from Benedict Cumberbatch. I loved him as Doctor Stephen Strange. Like Benedict Cumberbatch can play those eccentric characters so very well. We've seen it from Sherlock to we've seen it to him being a dragon playing Smaug and the desolation of Smaug from the Hobbits, and really seeing him play a character like Strange was amazing.
Just don't bring up Khan. I don't want to discuss it.
Yeah, I can kind of agree
It's
with
getting
that.
so hard at this point, man. Like we bring up old movies, like they could we can't say anything, man.
We got to bite tongues. Got to bite tongues.
It's absolutely hilarious because I'm sitting here. I want to say something. And it's like even if I say what I want to say, just as kind of like an equation to what I want to say, it says something. So nope, we're not going to say anything.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard. But I think everyone's kind of gotten a bit of our history and how we feel about Endgame, and we absolutely all here on the panel can collectively agree this film is well worth the watch. It is absolutely something to see, and trust me, you want to go see this film because this film does something that very, very few films can do in such a long time. So I really hope that everyone is able to go and enjoy it, be able to see it spoiler free and everything like that, and just kind of enjoy what it sets up. Now, with that being said, Hogue, I know you can't stay too long, so
that's right. I got to do tuck-ins.
Yeah.
I think my ladies are just finishing. Actually, surprisingly enough, ironically enough, they decided to watch Doctor Strange tonight, so I think it's just finishing. I believe I can hear it upstairs. So I'm gonna do nightly tuck-ins, and I very much thank you for inviting me to discuss this stuff. I'm definitely going to check in with your spoiler cast because so much to unpack in Endgame. It's unbelievable.
It really is. And to think about this, right? We went 3 hours with our spoiler cast last year for Infinity War for a 2.5-hour film. We're probably going to go a lot longer with this one because of the fact that we have a 3-hour film.
As I said, I did my post-mortem, which is spoiler filled. That's up on my channel. But normally when I do those, they're about 20 minutes long, maybe a half hour long for movies, because it's just me talking into a microphone about my thoughts. And that one went over an hour because I just kept having thoughts about the movie. It is a lot of fun for anybody that loves comic books. It's a lot of fun for anybody that just likes thinking through stuff. And that includes people that like to think through stuff that maybe doesn't work for them so well and they don't like something about the movie. It's still fun. That's still part of the process. And I still get enjoyment out of that because there are things in Endgame, as we talked about, pacing, tone, whatever it might be, where you sit there and you go, I'm not positive about that. But the overall package is it's still a 9 out of 10 for me. Irritating thing about that from where I'm sitting is I would love to be Soul King and be able to say that it's a 10 for me because it's so close to greatness for me that I would love it to get there. And I might force myself to. I might just make my brain think it's a 10.
You gotta stay honest, man. Don't be like Soul King. Don't conform to the movie.
It wouldn't be for anybody else, but for me personally.
It's just overall greatness.
It's a really fun movie. The MCU's been a blast for 11 years. I'm eager to see what they do next. I don't know that it'll ever get to this point ever again, so enjoy it while we've got it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I can agree.
All right. Well,
any fantastic beasts.
So, guys, please, if you aren't following Hogue over on Twitter, go check him out at Hogue Law, Hoeg Law. He always does a lot of stuff. If you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, you want to go check that out because he what's it called? That you do?
Legality.
That's what it is. And that always is some interesting insight. I actually started listening to that at work because his legal talk about a lot of things that go on, especially for the gaming industry, is always interesting to hear. To actually hear someone who knows that kind of stuff. And me and you actually went into a conversation when we were both on the Iron Lords podcast a while back, talking about what was going on with Bungie at the time with Activision split and what was going to happen with Destiny going forward. And we kind of got to go in on a bit of that because I actually had a little bit of insight, and then having you clarify a lot of things kind of helped that whole discussion. So guys, trust me, you want to go check out Hogue. He's a great guy. His stuff over there is always great to see.
It, and thank you again for inviting me, and I will catch the rest of this after I'm done tucking people in. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Hogue, for stopping by. It's always great to have you. Can't wait to see you in the chat next week for the spoiler cast. All right, guys. Well, speaking of early thoughts, it seems that we have a friend of ours in the chat right now who wants to hop in and come speak to the people. So we're gonna see good old 108 or the legendary Prometheus himself kind of wants to talk in on this. So We'll give him a second. But before we go with that, I want to bring up a quick topic that we brought up. That you Op, you actually posted in the chat that actually got me a little bit excited. Right, was the fact of that there is been announced or shown that there is early talks for a new Rob Zombie film called Hell's 3. And that got me excited because of the fact that it's actually not just anything. It's the fact of that film is actually supposed to be the next sequel to The Devil's Rejects. And we haven't seen that film since 2005. And that was actually a sequel to the first movie that he did, which was House of a Thousand Corpses. And that is really amazing to see that we're seeing a potential new film in that series with those old characters coming back. Everyone knows or recognizes Captain Spaulding when they see that man in his face paint, that crazy clown.
Oh yeah.
So it's really cool.
I
to
never
see.
really got in.
You never really got into that film.
No, just his films in general, like the Rob Zombie films. But I need to check them out.
Oh, dude, I love them because of the fact that I'm just a really big fan of horror. But I've always
I'm a horror
really
buff too. But I don't know why I could never just get into those films for some reason.
Really, I found that interesting because of the fact that I absolutely loved those films just because of the fact that Rob Zombie did a great job with them coming on.
Yeah, I need to just sit down one day and watch them all.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it for anyone who hasn't seen them because they do have their issues, but they are really big cult films, and I really have come to love them. Like I've been a big Rob Zombie fan, but then again, that's also because I was a big fan of his music, and really seeing that the way that he did horror and that more dark style was just really amazing to see. Op, have you seen any of the Rob Zombie's films? Have you seen any of these House of a Thousand Corpses or The Devil's Rejects?
I haven't seen any of them.
I seen parts of House of a Thousand Corpses. Like I seen parts of that one. I just didn't I have checked out Devil's Reject and like I never really finished House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, I completely can understand that. There are quite a few of the people that I know who watched those films who weren't massive fans of them and stuff like that didn't finish them, but the ones who did absolutely really loved it. So I know I was one of those people that absolutely loved it just because of the fact that for me, I truly was a massive Rob Zombie fan and really liked what he offered with all of that. But then again, it was different for me just because of the fact that I know what he's done and what it's kind of established, so I've really come to love that aspect. Personally, anyways. So I'm really excited to see that he's supposedly teasing a new trailer for that film series here soon because I know I'm absolutely looking forward to that. Now, with that as well, while we wait for Lemon to join in. So recently they released there was a showing or leak, whichever one it was at this point, of early screenshots from DC Universe's Swamp Thing TV series. And my God, when they said that Swamp Thing was gonna feel like a horror show, it definitely looks like a horror show. And Soul King actually got super excited about this, and I was too, because of the fact that we both got the same exact feelings from what we saw with this, with these early views. Because of the fact that right now it was coming in and giving us very, very, very much vibes of The Thing.
Yeah,
Classic horror. And then also
it feels like a body horror, and I like films like that, like The Fly and The Thing and stuff like that. So yeah,
And I think that's what got me excited, right? Was the fact of that it very much goes into that body horror style because of that aspect. Like I loved the thing. I really did love the thing so very much. One of my classic films, and I saw the original with Kurt Russell, and that one was amazing to see.
Yeah, just like even if you go back and just watch the thing now, just the because they didn't, they didn't have any like special effects or anything like that. They have to actually like create those like those body horrors, and it still holds up today. Just like when if you go watch Jurassic Park, like the dinosaurs and everything still hold up to today. It's just simply amazing, and I kind of wish like more films would try to just make robotic characters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on what you're saying right there. Is that they try to make it more realistic because it definitely is feeling that aspect is really adding that in and kind of
Yeah,
showing all of that aspect.
yeah. Like even if you go look at the prequel of the thing, they used a lot of CG and it kind of didn't have the same effect. So like when you watch, if you go watch even the aliens and stuff like that, when you watch like the xenomorph popping out the chest and stuff like that, that's robotics. So like it feels more natural when they do stuff like that in horror films instead of CG.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that. But I'm glad to see how much it has grown and really shows. And you know what? Some of those moments still really hold up even nowadays and stuff like that. And it's great to see. But knowing just how far we've achieved with visuals and things like that, how better it is, nowadays compared to back then.
Yeah, but I'm excited for a Swamp Thing. I'm really not like a huge fan of him, but I just seen how like just from like the teasers and the trailer that they're really putting love into it, and the fans really appreciate it. So
All right. And hey, he finally was able to get in. What's going on with your lemon?
You already know what to do, baby.
Oh,
Lemetheus is in the building.
that's right. We got the legendary Lemetheus, the acidic assimilator himself, the man who
The
had too many dragons.
acidic assimilator. The
Yes.
fatalities of the Grim Reaper. Yeah, I killed the Grim Reaper. Facts. All right.
All right. Hey,
What's
man.
good, fellas?
Not much.
What's up,
Not
man? How
much.
you been?
It's good. I had to be part of this.
I
I
know.
had to be part of this.
I know you
this
want to
this
get into
Hype.
early.
you might as well come next week too. So
Yeah. Because next
Yo,
week
look,
is when we're
man.
going into full spoiler cast. This week
Yo,
we're trying
this
to get
this
that
this
early.
is a bloody problem, man. Bloody didn't invite his big brother. I felt appalled. Appalled.
I didn't know if you were working tonight or not.
Nah, I am smash. Hulk smash. Facts.
Hey,
Bring
you
that
got.
energy, baby. Bring
Yeah,
that energy. That's what I do.
I know you
What's
do.
good, good
I know.
people?
I know you
Happy
do.
for y'all having me, man. I had to come through and represent my little brother. You know what I'm saying? And I love what y'all do over here. You know what I'm saying? I love it.
Always appreciate.
Go,
Always appreciate that, brother. Always
go
appreciate
see,
it.
go see that Avengers. If you ain't seen Avengers, you need to go shoot yourself in the face.
Oh,
Facts.
oh
oh
snap.
my,
Oh
oh my.
my.
That's how
I was
that's how deep it gets. That's how
yeah.
deep it gets.
You need to go see it by Monday. You really
Yeah.
need to go see it by Monday.
Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday. Yeah, Sunday night.
Now you should be there right now.
Oh snap. He
Yeah.
said. He said get in that theater now.
Get in the theater, baby. 3 hours and 5 minutes of your life. You owe it to Marvel, baby. You owe it to Marvel.
That's
It's a
crazy.
great movie.
It was
It's
a
a
great
great
movie.
movie.
So you want to give us some of your early thoughts on it?
Man.
Try and keep
Let
it
me,
spoiler free because we try to
no, no,
get
no.
spoilers.
I'm not gonna do no spoilers because I hate spoiling movies for people. But I'm gonna tell you, man. I am 6'5", 308 pounds of real guy, and I was standing up in the movie giving people high fives. Go get the motherfuckers! Get them!
Oh
Yo, it
snap.
was crazy. I ain't never did that in no movie. Yo, it was parts of the movie where you like shit. They got their ass whooped. They in counseling. Then, like I said on my man Triple Cups podcast, The Vibration, I said there's no way Captain Marvel could come and save the day.
Hey,
She don't
watch,
look that strong.
watch yourself. Watch yourself.
No, no, no. I'm treading the line. But you know what? I'm so happy I was right. It looked good at first. She did her thing. Then she got spot checked. I was like, okay, because you can't introduce a brand new character and they just come and be, I'm here. That ain't gonna work when you have so much history with the other characters. But they did. They gave everybody burn. They shut down the Wonder Woman movement.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't peep that? Y'all didn't see the subliminals and that Wonder Woman movement getting shut down?
Yeah.
Ooh, powerful movement. MCU was going in a great direction. They didn't give away nothing for the future. After Spider-Man Far From Home, we will know the future of the MCU. For those of you who don't know, but I have one question. I have one question for you, Bloody.
Yes.
This is for you. Who is bending the knee between you and King David?
I will be bending the knee.
Facts.
I own that. People, trust me, you want to be in for next week because had a year-long bet with King David for what was gonna be the outcome. Actually, no, it's been at least 6-7 months when we made the bet, and I am a man of my word and conviction.
You ain't got no choice.
Oh no, there's plenty of ways to get out of it, but
no, there isn't.
I'm going.
There isn't. Don't take the back seat to this one. You gonna eat that?
Oh, I know I will. I am a man. I am a man of honor. I stand by what I said, and I stood by it with all conviction because I was hoping there was a moment where it could have happened, but they did not go that route.
Nope. It was no moments. Nope.
When they were talking about how they could have gotten the time stone or all the Infinity Stones, I was just like, all right, this is where they're gonna go to it. But they went different directions. They're like, oh, well, hey, if this is the case, there's a moment where we can get everything and
And let me ask you a question.
No, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. It's going into territory. No, we're not going there. Stop
when
it.
They did when they did that, did you say, God damn it, I gotta bend the knee?
Nope, I did not. I was just at the end of the film, I was like, well, I was wrong, and I'm okay with that.
It's all right.
I owned it.
We all been wrong before.
Yeah, I'm okay because everything else, I was quite right on quite a bit of things. I was like, there's a couple things where I was wrong on, or there was.
You know what my nickname is for you?
What?
Captain Correcto, because you always trying to correct some goddamn body.
You're damn right.
Woo!
I'll take that. I'll be the CC.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it was a great movie though. I love it.
It really was.
I'm going to see it again Tuesday. Oh yeah.
I'm going Wednesday.
I'll be right back in there.
I know.
And for those of you listening, it might be with a girl.
A girl.
Give
Oh,
it
he's
a
gonna
fact.
take his wife. He's gonna take his wife.
No. I said it might be with whoever's listening's girl.
Oh, oh no,
Don't be
baby.
mad. I'm getting my bloody knuckles on. Facts.
Oh no. Oh no.
What else is good? What else is good, panel?
Hey, not much, man. We just talked about that. We talked about the new
Swamp Thing.
Yeah, Swamp Thing. What do you think about that?
Yo, first of all, these new trailers don't give away jack. They're making the Swamp Thing in the trailers look like he's the bad guy, like he's the Freddy Krueger or Jason of the situation, and we all know he's the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But it looks dark. It looks creepy. It looks sadistic.
It gives you the Fly vibe.
Facts.
It gives you like right before he transforms, and they're gonna show every aspect of him going through that transformation into the Swamp Thing. So
but you know what? You know what? Soul. Oh, Soul. Excuse me. I meant to say Soul.
Yeah, what's
King.
up?
You know what? I'm getting better. For those of you who know about that, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's the type of vibes it's bringing. I'm getting better.
Yeah,
That's what
and
happened.
like
That's what happened in
DC,
the Fly, baby.
they also just needed, they just need more time. And once give them more time, they're gonna keep like pushing out better content. So like, Swamp Thing might be the best thing they produce, like outside of like maybe like Young Justice and
Nah, nah,
Doom Patrol.
nah, nah. The best thing they produced was Aquaman and Second
No,
Coming.
I'm
no,
talking
he's
about the
talking
shows.
on the
Talking about
DC
shows.
universe.
Oh, shows.
Yeah, DCE.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, it might be. It might be, but like I said, I've been a Swamp Thing fan when the first Swamp Thing dropped, and people didn't even know that was DC back then. They didn't know that
Yeah,
was
they just
DC.
thought it was a horror. They just thought it was
Right.
just a horror film.
Just like I schooled people on Blade. I said Blade came from the Spider-Man comics. That's not Marvel. I said you need to pay attention. Wesley Snipes was on to something back then.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a Marvel character. I
Like
said
most.
that's the first rated R movie to make the most money in the history of comic book characters.
I just really wish, this off track. I just really wish that they would try to like just bring any type of like homage to like Wesley Snipe and what he did for just for Marvel in general, especially back in the day.
No. Stan Lee had a big conversation about that, and they paid homage to him. They also said they had to pay that money to get uh Black Panther back from him.
See,
Oh, okay.
if they were to
Yeah,
do,
he owned both of those.
let me ask you this. If they were to do a new Blade film, who would you want? Who would you want to play Blade?
You know what? It doesn't even matter at this point. Just pay homage to the old movies.
You know what would be dope? I would like him. I would like him to. What's the guy that always was Blade's mentor? I would be fine with him playing the mentor for Blade.
Yeah.
What's the guy named that?
Wesker.
You know, is it Wesker? Yeah. I would love for him to play just the mentor.
But no, I'm saying
Facts.
who would you actually want to play as Blade?
I have no favorites right now because Idris Elba can't be Blade.
You know who I would
I'm
want
saying-
to, You know who I would want to be Blade?
Jahar White.
Yeah, actually, Michael J. White.
You know why I
don't
wouldn't
know.
pick him?
He's
Because
too
that-
big right now. And
No,
then-
he's Spawn.
Yeah,
he
definitely
will
is.
always be Spawn.
Hey man, he's also
That's-
Bronze Tiger.
He's Bronze Tiger too.
Yeah,
Bronze Tiger
knows
is
that?
from DC.
Yeah.
He's a like the top martial artist in the world. When it comes to like DC universe, he can beat Batman hand to hand, almost anybody hand to hand. So
Yep. Besides, the
know what?
Karate Kid.
We're not doing that.
No.
but yeah, Spawn and Michael J. White, that's like Iron Man and Tony Stark. So
Yeah.
Facts.
But I
Facts.
mean, it's been 30. I mean, it's been sometimes it's been a while. I think that he could get a second time around.
Are y'all
But
real?
you-
Are y'all real Spawn fans? Do y'all own that HBO series?
I own HBO series.
I
But yeah,
own
I seen
all of
that.
it.
Yeah.
All of it.
But
I
you
got
know,
a
Jamie-
I got a
Jamie Foxx about to do a new
$3,000
Spawn.
I got a $3,000 Spawn figure in my crib right now. I'm looking at it right now.
But I don't want as it's too. I don't really look at John Bodega as Blade.
No, they need fresh
uh,
meat. You got to bring fresh meat.
I
'Cause
would-
Wesley, then replace him. Like when I home, a better job than the original. He did. And I enjoyed the movie. He didn't do a better job, man. He didn't even equal the job in Hellboy. And I thought Hellboy was a good movie. What y'all think?
I haven't seen it yet.
I
I
haven't
haven't seen
seen
it
it.
yet.
Come on! I can't be the only one going to all these movies.
I just couldn't see it yet, man.
Nah, man. Nah. Yo, blood, we're gonna have to rethink our strategy.
Oh snap! Oh snap!
We have to get a redo. We gotta do, matter of fact, we're gonna have to do a time warp or something.
Oh, we're gonna have
Because
to
like
do
they
quantum
like they
realm.
said in the movie, so Back to the Future's bullshit.
Yeah, we're gonna have
Classic.
we're gonna have to do a quantum leap.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look though, it's all good because when I'm up there in New York for New York City Comic Con, you know what movie we're gonna see, right?
Tell me.
We're gonna go see the Joker film.
Ooh, I'm in there with you. You and your father.
Yep.
Bloody, he's your father.
Yeah, because when I'm going up, for those who don't know, I'm gonna be going up to New York here with Prometheus to go to Nordic City Comic Con, and it's gonna be my
Facts.
birthday weekend, so the boys gonna show me.
Birthday?
You talking about
Yeah.
October? I'm gonna be
October.
I'm gonna be in New York Comic Con too. I'm gonna be there.
You ain't
Oh.
gonna be there. You ain't gonna
so
be
you
there.
gonna be there?
It's
You gonna
only
be-
it's only 4 hours away from me, so I'm gonna be
So
there.
you're not gonna be there.
Oh,
I
I'm gonna
challenge
fall
you.
back. I'm
I
gonna fall
challenge
back.
you to be there.
I'm gonna fall
I
back. I'm not
challenge
gonna
you.
be there. I'm not gonna be there. I'm gonna fall back.
I challenge you. I challenge you to be there.
Listen, you're gonna see me. I'm gonna be there. I'm just gonna be. I'm gonna pull up on you guys.
hey, that's right. My brothers are gonna be there. We're gonna be partying right. We're gonna show how we do it. That's
Yeah,
right.
me
Your
and my boy gonna be there. I'm bringing my man from his radio station, which I'll be live with, representing Bloody Op, Bone, Mr. K Mega himself. We're gonna be live.
Oh yeah.
May 16th. Download that Bushwick Radio app. Your boy Prometheus, my man King David. We will be live representing our teams on radio. Facts.
Woo! You heard it right here, baby. You heard it right here.
Bushwick Radio, baby. Go download the app. Apple and Android.
There you go.
Woo!
There you go. There you go. But I gotta say one thing, and we're gonna get ready to hop on out of here. Let's see, where did I throw that? All right. I want to know, what is your score for Avengers? What would you rate this?
That's a 10 out of 10. God damn it.
Oh.
10 out of 10.
Oh, there he goes.
That's
He
the
said-
new Titanic.
Oh,
The fish called Wanda. The new Avatar. Anybody say
Yeah.
something else, I'm coming in your crib, kicking in your door, and spanking your kids and talking to your wife alone.
I was just saying, like, just,
be careful.
just
You
from
will
the,
spank
just
your
from
kids
the,
and protect your wife.
just from the
Woo!
11 years that they gave us, it got to be at least a 9, man. It got to. It got to.
It paid off. It paid off. It all paid off.
Like
Nope.
compared to
He's like,
like
"Nope."
compared to like every other like trilogy or like big like film like Harry Potter, we got Lord of the Rings, we got Hunger Games. The endings weren't like really that good for me.
Don't do that. Don't do that, son. Please don't
Endgame
make me
was,
drop-
was amazing for me. I'm not
Harry
saying
Potter's-
I'm
Harry
not saying it
Potter-
wasn't great.
The
I'm not
last
saying-
one was great.
I'm not saying that they weren't great, but they weren't compared to me for Endgame. Endgame is number one.
Because you got like 500 super. But Voldemort versus Harry Potter was gangster. Let's not do that. The Matrix, when they fought in the rain, Mr. Smith, Mr. Anderson, classic battles. Come on, let's not do that, son. Let's not discredit another movie because another movie's great.
I'm not discrediting. I'm not saying they're
He's
bad.
saying
I'm just
that
The
saying
they-
battle of the 5 armies?
I'm not listen.
Yo.
I'm not saying they're bad. I'm
I
just
think
saying
what-
they're
They're
not.
not bad.
They're not
what he's saying
Endgame.
is that the endings didn't pay off for him like Endgame paid off. He's saying that
Like, I didn't-
he didn't get the payoff that he wanted. He didn't get the closure or get.
I didn't
Like,
get
I
the
didn't-
payoff I wanted either. But you know what? The ending that they gave us was epic. You understand what I'm saying? The payoff I wanted was Hulk beating the fuck out of Thanos. That was the
Oh.
payoff I wanted.
Oh, don't say that.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Jesus, listen.
But that don't mean he
Everything-
didn't fight. But that don't mean that's what I wanted though. That's I just said what I wanted.
Listen, we're gonna talk about this next week, and
Yeah.
we're all gonna go through it.
Well,
Like,
Hey guys, just remember it's okay because the fact that Magic Universe came out and wiped everything out of existence. That's all you.
Yo,
gotta
first
worry
of all, let me say something right now. No matter what we say on this podcast, which everybody needs to subscribe to this podcast, my boy Bloody and his super team, you know what I'm saying? They always out here doing what they do. But people got videos up spoiling it for people.
We ain't
I
got
was
that.
watching my favorite parts of the movie because I seen it already, so I'm gonna watch it. But I watched several parts, my favorite parts. The
yeah, they
Thanos-
definitely got
the Thanos fight with Iron Man, the Thanos fight with Captain America.
Oh.
No, I'm just saying fights. I didn't say what happened. I'm just saying the
Well,
fights.
well-
We know they all fought them. What I'm saying is they got those parts on YouTube. How they didn't get banned? Tell me that.
Well, I mean, right now, for those who don't know, is the whole film's already been uploaded and pirated all over the place. So.
Yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying, Disney has been attacking different channels for that and shutting it down. All that shit should be banned. You
Yeah,
can
but
watch.
it's like it's millions of millions of channels that's doing it. So it's so hard to like just to
You think
like
this the
stop
first
it.
movie? You think this the first $1 billion movie to do that? Star
I'm
Wars. Star Wars
I'm
didn't
not
have
saying
those
that.
spoilers. They didn't have it.
Huh? Yeah.
Star
Yes, it did.
Wars. No, they didn't have it where you could click on scenes. Oh, look at May fight this person. No, they got detailed individual fight.
I,
Thor versus
I'm
Thanos. Captain
I'm
America
just
versus Thanos. I was like,
I'm just like when Last Jedi came out, you can go on YouTube and like literally like look up like the the Luke Skywalker scene or the it was like day one. So I want
wow.
like
See, I didn't see that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really, but they got real spoilers on YouTube this time.
Nope.
oh yeah, it's spoilers
Bad.
everywhere. You go on Facebook and you just scroll down your timeline. You got professional NFL players spoiling it for you. So,
Right. Which is
bad.
if you're a real fan, you're not gonna watch it on Cody. If you're a real fan, you're not gonna watch no spoilers. If you're a real fan, you don't want to hit it spoiler cast. I'm not spoiling it for you. What I'm saying is I watched because I love the movie so much, but I saw it already. So I watched it on YouTube, my favorite parts. And I said, yo, I've never seen this like this. This is crazy. You know what I'm saying? I seen some people thumbnails that had the movie and it was like Disney shut this down or whatever. I'm like, what about all these other 50 videos? You know what I'm saying? I was like, God damn.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It
Yeah,
really
it's crazy.
But
It got up to the last 2 weeks when people was trying to put out stuff. I said, I ain't listening to nothing. And 99% of the YouTubers with their plot twists, and I'm not including you, buddy, but you are part of that. But
hey, whoa! I actually had mine well thought out. All right, calm down.
nah, you were so far off, man. You like black and white, and the streets was red. I don't even want to talk about that. But anyway, anyway, I watched a lot of different people I respect. Oh yeah, in this situation, they're talking about this and talking about that. And when her hair turns red, this is what happened. Y'all all full of shit. Cause y'all all was wrong. Not you, bloody. You wasn't wrong. You just was a little off, but you came from a logical perspective. I respect that. But some people just was making videos to be making videos about the Avengers. And y'all clowns. And I unsubscribe. Y'all terrible. Y'all just be lying.
I like my stuff to be well thought out and explained.
Right. It was. You was wrong as shit though, but that's all right.
It's okay.
It came from the heart.
Yeah,
It came from the
I
heart.
know I'm wrong.
You didn't make nothing up for clickbait. You said what you figured could happen. Some people just was out there lying. Oh, in this cutscene, you missed this part, this Easter egg, and I'm like, oh damn, I missed that. When I watched the movie, I said, these bastards, they done buffooned me. They buffooned me. I was believing a lot of people. Boy,
Can't be falling for
won't
that.
happen again.
Can't
Yeah,
be
I
falling.
fell for it. I fell for it.
It's
I'm a
okay.
victim.
It's okay. It gets the best of us.
I can't wait to see you bend a knee on broken glass.
I mean, I gotta get some broken glass first.
No, I'm gonna break it for you. I'm gonna buy a bottle of Hennessy. We gonna drink it,
All
and
right.
then I'm gonna bust the bottle,
Okay.
and you're gonna kneel on it.
All right. You heard.
Game
you
of
heard
Thrones
about
status.
it. Right on the glass. Right on it. But guys, everyone who stopped by and who's been here in the chat talk with us, I do want to thank every single one of you guys. It's greatly appreciated. Like I said, this has been such a fun episode, but so hard to avoid because of the fact that we all want to go in on it. I was like, and I want to make sure everyone knows. Go check out.
You might have to wait 2 weeks, son. You might have to wait 2 weeks.
Maybe.
No, but I'm telling you, this is why. You know, my neighborhood, they're not quick to buy tickets
Yeah.
like an AMC or IMAX movie theater.
Just
Yo,
tell
when I pulled up to my hood, I seen cars parked on top of cars. Basically, I said, "Oh my God!" I bought my tickets 3 weeks in advance, and I still was like, "Oh my God!" If the hood came out like that, I know how it's gonna be the next 2 weeks. It's gonna be like the Titanic. I mean, really, this movie literally might be the #1 movie of all times.
Yep. And
Everybody is like, this is incredible.
oh
I
yeah,
didn't hear nobody said they didn't like it.
and we actually mentioned that the article is already showing what every record that it's already breaking. That it already broke.
Mhm.
It already
It
broke.
already-
the record.
It already passed
That's all right.
majority of all the MCU films in the first day, so it's at 150 mil plus.
Oh well,
And
that
that's
was
just on
already,
Friday.
oh that was already expected because of the fact that remember it was also the first film to break $100 million in both the U.S. and Chinese market before debut, and then it's
Yeah.
already been confirmed to be about 220 million in China alone, and then I think
It's at like 88 in China, but
well,
it's at 150.
that's from Friday, but the total is 220 million already.
Oh, we don't got it for today yet. So
Oh, okay, well then that's counting Thursday then because of the fact that
They're not counting today. They're counting Thursday. The
Yeah,
movie
oh.
opened Thursday.
yeah, then that's
It
even,
didn't open Friday. It opened Thursday.
no,
Then that's even better.
Thursday is the early is counting early showing.
But it's counted. It doesn't matter. Every movie opens 7 p.m. Thursday.
Yeah, but
That
they
is
don't-
the time.
I'm just letting you guys know that's not counting in opening weekend.
Yeah.
You think they don't count money they accumulated?
That's
bugging.
not that's not counting in
No,
open weekend.
I think that they are counting Thursday.
They are counting it. You bugging. That's
Thursday-
money they making.
Thursday to Sunday. Thursday to
That's
Sunday
it's
is
Friday to Sunday. It's not Thursday to Sunday. Thursday
No.
is not.
I said
All right.
money. I didn't say day. I said money.
And
No, but
I'm
he's
just letting
talking
you
about
know
opening
they're going
weekend.
by metrics. They go
Yeah.
by metrics. Opening weekend. That's where they go by. An opening day.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but you're not gonna say, "Oh, we made $50 million on Thursday." Let's not count that.
They count that in the early. They count that in early.
I
Yeah.
get it, but I'm saying my movie theater, like I said, my hood don't come out for nothing. Shazam! I walked in there, it was empty on Thursday. Friday, it was sold out, but Thursday it was empty. Avengers in my hood was retarded. Spider-Man: Homecoming was retarded.
I think he's just trying to explain the metric
Aquaman.
of how it's all counted.
I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Bloody, I get that. But I'm telling you, they're not gonna discount the money. They're not gonna say, "Oh, we're not gonna count that money." Who's gonna do that?
No, I think he's just saying like from what it's going to be counted because if
When
they
they
count
when
the
they
total,
when they do officially, it's Box Office Mojo, and when you go to opening weekend, it's April 26th to the 28th. That's the weekend.
yeah, but it's still counted in the total.
And when you do Thursday, that goes when they started from Monday and Tuesday, early showings and stuff like that. So.
yeah. So
Right.
that's all-
I don't
that's-
disagree. I don't disagree, but I know that money has to go somewhere.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
no,
of
it's
course
all
it's
gonna be
going in they bank. Yeah, of course.
Because they're
Yeah.
gonna because right now it's pushing for a 300 possibly 350 domestic opening weekend.
Yeah, domestic is going to it's destroying everything. It's not like possibly it's going to be the best film of all time.
Well,
the best
it's gonna
grossing film.
Yeah, because this is gonna be the film that is possible to have a $1 billion opening weekend globally, and possibly
And
be
it's,
the only.
it's going to be
film
the first film to hit 3
billion. Yeah, it is nothing to scoff at what they've achieved with this. But
So it's just win. That's
it's
the only
crazy.
thing. Win.
It's a win.
When it's going to happen.
It's a win with a capital W. That dub, son. That dub, all over it. They got that bankroll going.
I just can't wait to talk about more of it.
I know when we
Yeah.
go in top,
But
when
we-
we go in depth.
Man, because it's still a lot of people still can't get in. We may have to push it back, man. I'm
I
telling
don't-
you because
We
Yo.
always do a week. This was
Listen,
gonna be
there's
hard to do.
people.
I
there's
know,
people out
but what
here-
I'm saying, we talked about a movie a month after. You had people in the chat saying, "Oh, don't spoil it for me." And how many times you heard me say on your podcast, if you ain't seen it by now, that's a you problem.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a you problem.
That's a you
too
problem.
There's too many YouTubers out here that's already doing it now. Like,
Right.
they did it day one. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
We
it's
ain't
hard.
we ain't about that.
we're giving people a week grace period. So like they gotta. That's on them. They
Yeah.
they
I
better
want to
travel, like,
spoil a
2
lot
hours
of
to go
shit
watch it.
tonight, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, trust me. We've been biting our tongue all this show because when we had Hogue on here, we were trying to be as vague as possible. It's so hard. Trust us, guys. Next week, you want to tune in for the spoiler cast. We got a great cast coming up. We got a bunch of great guests. King David's gonna be back. We're also gonna have Megatron coming through. We're gonna have shout out to PlayStation Brawl. He's gonna be coming through. El Boogie is supposed to be coming on. So shout out to the girls over from GWG. She's gonna be on. Of course, we have all the usual panel members here. Jamie Moran should be coming back through, hopefully, if he can. So shout out to my love to across the pond over there. And I know Lemon, you want to come through. So it's always.
You already know I'm the party crasher.
Yeah, you
That's
are.
what I do. Party crap. But I'm bringing bottles and pills. No, not pills. I'm just bringing bottles.
I mean, I got bottles ready. I got bottles ready. I still got 1.5 liters over there of cracking. Let's go.
Ooh, he said 1.5 liters. I'm just bringing bottles. We don't do pills. Oh, I don't.
We ain't about that. We ain't about that life. We ain't about that life. But guys, everyone who's here right now, I do want y'all to be aware that we are doing a giveaway as well. We're doing our first official Smash Crate, as we're calling it. Themed giveaways based on anything going on in pop culture, from big events that we find that you guys would love. Right now, we started this during the Star Wars celebration, so our first crate is going to be Star Wars themed. Op, if you have the link to that, post it in the chat for me. But we do have it. We've tweeted out multiple times. It is on our Twitter, so you can follow that over there. So we do have a link to all those. So guys, trust me, you want to go and show us support and go check that out, because we do want to give back to you guys for all the support. Everyone who is here in the chat, we do greatly appreciate what you guys do for us and coming out and coming through. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It is helping us grow. We are doing more. I've been personally hitting up as many events as I can, going out there to meet you guys and bring more content. I'm trying to work on getting my schedule and stuff in line, but we're all putting in work. Op has been helping out. We have the podcast here up on Spotify and Google Podcasts and a bunch of other places, so you can hear all the audio logs of all of our old shows, and we're trying to get it to where all this is caught up for you guys. So trust me, you want to go out and check that. We're constantly putting up stuff, so that way you guys always have a way to get the content for those who aren't able to be here in the live shows with us. It is greatly appreciated. Of course, you also want to make sure to subscribe and follow everyone down below. All of our social medias down below. You can find Soul King on Instagram and Twitter down below. You can find Ops Twitter. Of course, G's not here, but he will be here next week for the show. So you want to follow him. And of course, down below you'll find a link to my Linktree, because I have so many things to follow me on and all over the place. You want to make sure you do that, because you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the page that we have set up on Mixer.com, as well as a link to all of our audio podcasts as well. So you guys, trust me, it would be greatly appreciated that you follow us all there. And if you are subscribed, make sure you hit the bell icon so you get notifications when we go live, when we do all this, because we do this for you guys. We love talking about this, but we want to share something special with you guys and be able to talk about it with you. So it's always greatly appreciated for all the support that you guys do it. But until next time, guys, we'll catch y'all later. So peace out, and check you later, guys.